Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Alhamdulillah, brothers, we're very fortunate, very blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we have Shaykhana Mufti Ibn Munir. He's flown all the way over from the States, and he's got a small tour that he's been doing in UK. I'm sure most of you have been following it for the past few days. The Shaykh, mashallah, he's very well grounded in his ilm. Allah blessed him to study for over a decade in the Middle East, in various parts of the Middle East. In terms of qualifications, alhamdulillah, the Shaykh, he attained his bachelor's and his master's from the faculty of hadith in Jamia Islamiyya in Medina. So other than that, in terms of being an active da'i, alhamdulillah, he's known for his, I don't think there's a day that goes by he's not teaching in his local facility back in US. And alhamdulillah, out of all of the masajid, the hundreds of masajid we have in UK and in London, Allah blessed us to have him here at Masjid Ayesha. So we should show our utmost appreciation and adab that he chose to join us. Obviously, the Shaykh, he's a musafir, so that in itself he's probably a bit tired. Today, I know they've had a long day, and after he gives this dars, he's not even finished. I know he's got another program that he needs to attend to, and then he's got more stuff to do tomorrow before he leaves. So please be mindful of that. Anyone from London also will know that, you know, they're only a few minutes late, and London traffic is crazy. So they've done quite well, mashallah, to get here the time they did. But yeah, they've literally been on the go since they got here. So please show them your utmost adab and respect. Try not to bother the Shaykh too much. And inshallah ta'ala, as soon as the Shaykh comes in, he'll get his class started. He's going to be going through the benefits of seeking knowledge, and he's going to be taking a specific hadith. And that is his field, the field of hadith, amongst other fields. So please, inshallah, try your best to benefit as much as possible. Wa barakallahu feekum. Sorry, Ikhwan, there will be Q&A after, inshallah, but that's going to be down to the Shaykh's discretion, how long he chooses to make that last for. Please keep in mind, like I said, that they are musafirin, so they're very tired. Even today in itself, they've had a long day. So please, if your question can't get answered in any way, please have some understanding. Also, the sisters, there will be a sister upstairs in charge of taking the questions. She will inshallah make herself known to you guys, and if there's any questions, please make sure you get it to her, and she will contact the relevant people from the rubber section, inshallah.
Did you find a charge, Abu Sayyid? طيب شكرا تفضل. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وجاهد في الله تعالى حق الجهاد حتى أتاه اليقين. فصلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد. The great scholar of al-Islam, Abu Bakr Ahmad ibn Ali ibn Thabit, who's well known as al-Khatib al-Baghdadi rahimahullah, who died in the year 463, was given the title Hafidh al-Mashriq. He was called the Master of the East, who's well known, and there isn't a field or subgenre of the science and study of hadith and the sciences except that he has some type of specific work or book which he produced and put forth. Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi rahimahullah ta'ala. And from the books that he wrote and the works that he left behind, which make up his tremendous and fantastic legacy, is that which is called Sharafu Ashab al-Hadith. Sharafu Ashab al-Hadith, the nobility of the people of hadith. And the book, I believe, overseas among Tulab al-Ilm, Mashayikh, Ulama, Yani al-Muntasibina lil-Ilm, those who busy themselves with knowledge, is well known. It's well known. I also believe that the book is a bit well known in the English language, whereas the book hasn't been completely translated according to my limited knowledge, but the book is often quoted in the footnotes or in the index or the bibliography of many translated works. Sharafu Ashab al-Hadith, the nobility of the people of hadith. And we all know why he wrote this book. He wrote this book for, I would humbly say, both of the two styles of at-ta'lif. فيما يتعلق بالمخالف. When there's someone who disagrees with you, and even if there's someone who agrees with you, but specifically someone who disagrees with you, then the ulama of Islam, they have two main ways of writing books. هناك أسلوبان اثنان. الأول أسلوب التقرير والثاني أسلوب الرد. The first is to establish the truth. to establish the truth, to prove the truth, to prove what you believe is the truth. And secondly is to aggressively attack that which you believe isn't the truth. And that which you believe is false or incorrect, that which is erroneous. So the first is at-taqrir, to mention something establishing the dalil. The permissibility of wearing navy blue. The permissibility of wearing a navy blue jumper. And then you quote your hadith, or you mention the verses from the Quran al-Kareem, or the athar of the Sahaba, whatever your scientific way of using the proofs and evidences, whatever those proofs and evidences are, you mention it. And secondly is rad, in which you mention a chapter to rebuke and to refute those who say that it's disliked to wear a navy blue jumper. Those who say that it's haram to wear a navy blue jumper. The first obviously aids the second, and the second obviously aids the first. It's like a seesaw. It goes up and down, back and forth. They go hand in hand, but it's a bit different. So to mention the permissibility of wearing navy blue, and to mention the refutation of someone who says that you cannot wear navy blue. So al-Khatib al-Baghdadi rahimahullah, in his book Sharaf Ashab al-Hadith, he used both styles. He mentioned the proofs, he mentioned the evidences and the athar and the aqwal al-warida, the statements of the different imams, to establish the virtue of the people of hadith, their virtue and their excellence. And in his book he also mentioned many chapters in which he quoted saqa al-asanid wal-athar wal-aqwal, the statements and the views of the imams regarding those who spoke ill against Ahl al-Hadith and Ashab al-Hadith and looked down upon them and looked at them in contempt and disdain. Now that's one thing, one discussion. There's another book that he wrote, which I humbly feel in Arabic and in English is far, or is lesser, it isn't as known as the first book. It's far more rare and precious. And there's some of the ulama and some of the muhaqqiqeen who put both books together. And that is the book which is called Nasihati li Ahl al-Hadith. Nasihati li Ahl al-Hadith, or Nasihati li Ashab al-Hadith. He wrote a book in which he gave advice to the people of Hadith. The first book was for the people of Hadith and for others. Those who were students of Hadith, for the truth to be established concerning their virtue and their excellence, and to stifle those who held the opposite view. And the second book he only wrote specifically for Ahl al-Hadith and Ashab al-Hadith. And that's because during his time, he saw that there was a great deal of devotion to learning and studying Hadiths. A great deal of devotion from the shabab, the young men and women, and others. But unfortunately, he also saw a great deal of deviation, a great deal of inhiraf. That many of those students of Hadith were not treading the right path. They were not adhering to the correct etiquette. They were not behaving in the proper manner befitting of Ashab al-Hadith. And he also wrote this second book to give the finely tuned points of how to master this science. What to do and what not to do. And what not to do. These books, alhamdulillah, I was blessed to come across many years ago, early in my life. And there lies no doubt that those books, along with many other books, were direct and indirect influences and inspiration for me putting together 40 hadith on seeking knowledge. 40 hadith on seeking knowledge, which I consider to be a manual, and I consider to be a very unique work. I don't think there's anything like it in the English language. A few things perhaps like it in Arabic, perhaps, which teach, which educate, and which also refute and rebuke and clarify the different conceptions and misconceptions pertaining to seeking ilm. How to seek knowledge and how not to seek knowledge in general. And there are also a few chapters in that book that deal specifically with Ashab al-Hadith and Tullab al-Hadith, those who wish to learn and seek Hadith. So with this being said, al-Khatib al-Baghdadi rahimahullah ta'ala, in that book, he gives all types of precious advice to the Tullab al-Ilm. And from the advice that he gave, he quotes the athar, versions of it being marfu', la'allahu, and for sure versions of it being mawquf and maqtu', what the companion said, and what some of the imams said, tafaqahu qabla an tasudu. He says, seek knowledge before you take on authority. Seek knowledge before you become a sayyid, before you become someone else's master. Master yourself before you master someone else. تفقهوا قبل أن تسودوا. Seek and learn before you become in charge of someone else. Now I'm sure many of you have heard this athar, as it's mentioned in Sahih Bukhari and other places. تفقهوا قبل أن تسودوا وبعد أن تسودوا. Seek knowledge before you take authority and after you take authority. What does this athar mean? تفقهوا قبل أن تسودوا. What does it mean, and why did Khatib al-Baghdadi rahimahullah mention this athar in the beginning of that book, Nasihati li Ahl al-Hadith? Anyone know? Anyone can give it a shot? What does this athar mean? What have you heard in a class or a lecture of a scholar or someone explaining this narration? تفقهوا قبل أن تسودوا. Seek knowledge, get fiqh fi deen before you're in charge, before you're in authority, before you're an imam of a masjid or the imam of a household, before you're a husband, before you're in the administration, before you're a leader of people or a place. Make sure that you have knowledge. What does this mean? Volunteer? تفضل أخي.
When you have a position, your responsibilities will increase. So you might not have as much time to learn as much as you could.
That when you seek knowledge, your responsibilities will increase. And you may not have as much time to seek knowledge. You'll be preoccupied and busy because you have to lead the salah. You have to give the khutbah. There's no time to study for yourself. You have to study for the people now, whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not, you're studying for the people to hear the good, positive reminder. طيب. جزاك الله خيرا. تفضل.
Example from Usul al-Thalatha. The four fundamental principles beforehand is to seek knowledge first, and then implement, and then keep down.
طيب. Knowledge precedes speech and action. خيرا inshallah. جزاك الله خيرا. Anyone else? Anybody else? Anyone else? تفضل يا أخي.
Seek knowledge first, because once you're in a position of authority, you might mislead the people that you're in charge of.
You might mislead people if you aren't fully qualified yourself. Similar to what he mentioned. Al-ilmu qabla al-qawli wal-amal. طيب. Jazakallah khairan. Anyone else? Anybody else? طيب. This is, alhamdulillah, just as I thought, is the mainstream interpretation of this athar. The mainstream, the orthodox understanding of this athar, which is correct, but it's only partially correct. There is another interpretation of this athar that is mentioned in that book and in the footnotes or the annotated notes of that book. And that is when a person becomes a sayyid, a master, a leader in position, it is difficult, if not impossible, the chances are slim to none for him to humble himself to learn and to submit himself to his teacher. تَفَقَّهُ قَبْلَ أَن تَسُودُوا. And not just pertaining to being busy and being preoccupied, but how can you sit down with someone who's younger than you or lesser than you? You're the leader, you're in charge. How can you learn from someone who's in a worldly status of inferiority? The chances are slim to none. It's very hard, very difficult. And that's what the ulama mentioned, that your teacher shouldn't necessarily be your friend, because it's hard for your friend, your close friend who has a relation with you, to correct you and to tell you what you need to be told. That you are lazy, you're lethargic, or for your friend to get angry or even pick up a stick and hit you and beat you. It's difficult, let alone someone is above you. You may say something to this leader and that may be your head. That may cost you your neck, literally. Everyone understand this? So, and there are other interpretations of the athar as well. What's important is it's important to take advantage of your youthful years. And that's also mentioned in that book as well, with regards to pottery, how to mold things when the clay is wet and soft, and not when the clay becomes dry and hard. It's almost impossible to manipulate it. It has to be done when it's in a manipulative stage. What's important is, brothers and sisters, is that all of these faces that we see in London, in Birmingham, let alone in other countries that we go to, let alone in the United States, all of these wonderful faces of these brothers, that's the most important advice that I would wish to pass on to you, is take advantage of your youthful years. Take advantage of the strength, of the energy. Take the advantage of the free time. As it's going to come, inshallah, in the sharh, in the 40 hadiths, that the Prophet ﷺ says, نِعْمَتَانِ مَغْبُونٌ فِيهِمَا كَثِيرٌ مِنَ النَّاسِ الصِّحَّةُ وَالْفَرَاغُ. Abdullah ibn Abbas' hadith in Sahih Bukhari, it says, two favors of Allah two great favors of Allah. That's what the hadith means. Because it's nakira, fi siyaq al-ithbat. It says, an-ni'matani, ni'matani, two favors that are great favors and that are considered to be comprehensive favors. Two favors of Allah that most people, كثير يعني أكثر الناس. إن الشرك لظلم عظيم يعني أعظم الظلم. Two favors of Allah that most people don't take advantage of. As-sihha wal-faragh is good health and free time. The average person abuses his or her health, and the average person abuses his or her free time, and especially the youth. Especially the youth. You don't look after your energy and your strength, your liver and your kidney and your lungs when you're young. And in most cases, people only look after these things when they become old and sick. Become old and sick. As Ustad Abdurrahman Hassan mentioned in a video that I was watching a couple of days ago in the United States, right? Most people don't value their health until it's what? Until it's on the line. You know the video I'm talking about? It's a reality, especially when you're young, because you have so much energy, you have so much free time. But the moment it's time for responsibility, the moment that it's time for seriousness, then, oh man, where did my years go by? Where did my life go? Where did my health go? It was wasted through smoking, through drinking, through tattoos, through fornicating, through playing video games, through playing sports, and the list goes on and on and on and on. The things that most youth engage in. But you guys, alhamdulillah, inshallah ta'ala, have been blessed by Allah. So it's upon you to thank Allah for that blessing, and it's upon you to maintain that blessing. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Oh Allah, guide us to the straight path. كيف هذا؟ ونحن مسلمون ونحن إن شاء الله تعالى مؤمنون ونحن نصلي لله. كيف نقول هذا في صلاتنا? How do we say this in our prayer? We're Muslims. Inshallah, we're mu'mins. The ulama of Islam say two main wisdoms behind this ayah and Surah Al-Fatiha. Guide us to the straight path. A. تثبيت الموجود وتحصيل المعدوم. It means to strengthen and to bolster what we already have, to maintain and to ask Allah for more. So maintain the blessing that Allah has given you and ask Allah for more. Everyone understand this? So be mindful of your young years, brothers and sisters. Because trust me, your young years, if you're not responsible, they will fly and they will leave you. If you don't go overseas, if you don't take the Quran seriously, if you don't take Hadith seriously right now, it's going to be very difficult to take it seriously later on. When you have to go to sleep, when you have to wake up early in the morning, when you have to put a baby on your shoulder and burp a baby and put a baby to sleep. And you have a woman who's demanding her rights from you. She's demanding her free time. She's demanding her husband and wife time from you. And many sisters, not all, there are many sisters who may marry someone because he's righteous and he's knowledgeable. But from my personal experiences in life and counseling people, many sisters, if not most, I don't know about the UK, but in America, they say they want to marry a brother because he's a student of knowledge. He's righteous, he's pious, he's having the Quran. 9 out of 10 times, they really marrying him because he's handsome and cute. Because he's funny, he has a good personality. Because he's a good dresser. Because he's wealthy. And the knowledge on the side, that's on the garnish of the plate. And the proof of this is when things go wrong, things go south, things go sour, they have problems. The ilm that he had from the beginning of the marriage is still there. But she's complaining. He doesn't do this. He doesn't have this. He doesn't give me this. He's this and this. What happened to the ilm and the hifd? That didn't go anywhere. Rather, he's spending more time studying. He's going further in his studies. And you're a displeased wife because you didn't really marry him for his knowledge. But you married him for how he looked and his personality. And it was convenient that he had ilm. Everyone understand this? And this is not all sisters, as I said. This is not all sisters. We're not stereotyping. But this is a reality. So you have to be mindful of this. You may marry a woman and she doesn't want a sheikh to be in her house. She doesn't want an imam or mufti in her house. She wants her husband to be in her house. She wants to talk with you, eat with you, enjoy your time and your company for you are as a man. And you can't do that if you're trying to read and memorize and study. And this is why some of the ulama of Islam, kana yufaddil, they would give preference to being single instead of being married. Al-Muhim, we're not here to discuss that in detail. What's the ruling on getting married or going overseas first? That is mentioned in the 40 Hadith on Seeking Knowledge, Volume 2, which, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, hopefully will be available soon. The book has been done, it's complete, it's been printed. Hopefully it'll be available soon. What's the ruling on going overseas, studying, or getting married first? Khairan inshallah ta'ala. So with that being said, brothers and sisters, let's get started with our topic. Amma ba'd, right? As for that which follows, if you have the book for the Hadith on Seeking Knowledge, then inshallah ta'ala, hopefully you've read the introduction and the preface. We won't reiterate it for preservation of time. Also, alhamdulillah, we've explained the book more than once, twice I believe. Also, there's an audio version of the book on the channel, even though it needs to be redone and revamped, but it is there. So anyone who's familiar with the book already knows why the book was written, how the book was written, etc. So the first selected hadith that I've chosen for myself, first and foremost, I'm a little stingy. I'll admit that. I'm a little selfish, that I enjoy it before you do. I learn and I benefit before all of you do, myself. That which I chose for myself first, and perhaps you also enjoy it and benefited from as well. With regards to the selected hadith on Seeking Knowledge, is the second hadith of the book on page 9. And if you don't have the PDF, you can download it from archive.org. Alhamdulillah, we try to contribute and give back. Only Allah knows how many books we've downloaded from the internet for free, how many PDFs we have on our phone and tablet, so we try to do the same. Only Allah knows how many ebooks and audiobooks we like to listen to and enjoy, and we try to what? Give back and do the same. So you can get the book for free. The PDF is available. The original book obviously is sold out, but the PDF is available. Just type in 40 Hadith on Seeking Knowledge, archive.org. You should be able to find the PDF, inshallah ta'ala. So on page 9, the second hadith of the book, the chapter heading, it says, the excellence of knowledge. The excellence of knowledge. The excellence of getting a job and making money. The excellence of getting married. The excellence of taking care of your parents. The excellence of the need for Muslims for doctors and lawyers and engineers. The excellence of playing sports. All of those things are good and fine and peachy. But that's not what we're talking about right now. Everyone understand this? In this book, we have a specific agenda. This lecture tonight, we have a specific agenda. Those who have come for the dhikr and the kalima hasana and so on and so forth, you're more than welcome. And I, inshallah ta'ala, I feel confident that you'll benefit. But we have a specific agenda behind this tour, this trip, this lecture, and this book. Everyone understand this? A specific agenda and a specific audience. So the only thing that we wish to discuss in this chapter right now is one thing and one thing only. Not the obligation of seeking knowledge, not the don'ts of seeking knowledge, not the etiquette of seeking knowledge, but we're only discussing the sheer virtue and beauty of ilm and seeking it, period. طيب, hadith number 2, it says, Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma mentioned that he heard Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam saying, بين أنا نائم أتيت بقدح لبن فشربت حتى إني لأرى الري يخرج في أظفاري ثم أعطيت فضلي عمر بن الخطاب قالوا فما أولته يا رسول الله قال العلم. It says, while I was asleep, I was brought a jug of milk and drank until I could see what I was drinking coming out of my nails. Then I gave what remained to Umar ibn al-Khattab. The Prophet was asked how he interpreted the dream. He told him that it is knowledge. This hadith has been collected by al-Bukhari, whom the wording belongs to, and Muslim. In other words, as we mentioned in the introduction, that the asl of the lafaz is Muslim. And for those who seek hadith and study hadith, we know that there's a major important benefit of saying this. وَاللَّفْظُ لِمُسْلِمٍ وَاللَّفْظُ لِلْبُخَارِ. And that is because there are different things on both sides of the fence with Bukhari and Muslim. Whose book is more authentic? Most of the ulama, if not all of them, for sure the overwhelming majority say that Bukhari's book is more authentic. Whose book is more better organized, is more thoroughly arranged? Most of the ulama, if not many of them, they say it's the book of Imam Muslim. Whose book is closer to the original organic style of hadith? They say it's that of Imam Muslim. Whose book is more comprehensive with regards to fiqh and istinbat and istikhraj, deducing and extracting the rulings and a broader scope of the entire deen? They say that of Imam al-Bukhari. But Imam Muslim, rahimahullah ta'ala, he wrote his book in his hometown of Nishapur. And they say that he wrote his book over a 12-year span. So Imam Muslim, he wrote his book in the company of many of his teachers, and also in the company of his personal library. His personal library, i.e. he had easy and quick reference. He could go back and he can check and double check from his hifz and his kitab. Everyone understand this? Also, Imam Muslim rahimahullah ta'ala was extremely meticulous. Extremely meticulous. Everyone understands? Overcritical. Imam al-Bukhari was meticulous, but Imam Muslim was extremely meticulous. And there are many words and phrases and statements that al-Bukhari and others will say, it's no problem. Mention it as you wish to. And Muslim would stick to the wording specifically. أخبرنا حدثنا وقال الآخراني وقال he would separate who said أخبرنا, who said حدثنا. So Imam Muslim rahimahullah ta'ala, when it comes to the alfaz, the wordings of the hadith in general, Imam Muslim's book is better. Because Imam Muslim, he sticks closer to the actual literal wording of the hadith. And Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, his book doesn't necessarily have this virtue over Muslim's book for two reasons. Number one is Imam al-Bukhari, he wrote his book oftentimes on the road when he was traveling. Or even if he wasn't offering his book, how he wrote on hadiths. We all know the famous athar. Rubba hadithin samitu, perhaps a hadith I heard in Sham, I wrote it down when I was in Iraq. What's the difference between those two countries? So oftentimes, he would hear a hadith, memorize it by heart, and then write it down later on. He didn't make a mistake later on, but it's not the same as you immediately what? Writing it down and having the books with you to reference. Secondly is that Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, his style was a bit easier, a bit more formless than that of Muslim. And he believed that you could ikhtisar al-hadith, summarize a hadith. And you can take a nuskha, a complete series, Hammam ibn Munabbih, and take a hadith from there without mentioning the whole entire nuskha or the whole entire isnad again. Tayyib, now I'm mentioning these fawaid for specific people. Everyone deserves something. If there's 100 brothers or 200 brothers, maybe 20 or 30 brothers or sisters may specifically benefit from this kalam. Everything is not just a reminder or a iman booster. Everything is not for the people in the middle. There are advanced students that deserve time and attention as well. And we respect you greatly. Everyone understand this? So with that being said, and if you're confused or if you don't get it, then inshallah work harder and perhaps you'll understand, inshallah ta'ala. So with that being said, if you collect a hadith, and a hadith is agreed upon by Bukhari and Muslim, and you wish to write this hadith in a book or a paper or a khutbah, then perhaps the best thing to do is to use the wording of Imam Muslim, because it's more precise. And obviously there's certain alfaz and riwayat in Bukhari which give you exactly what you're looking for. Khairan inshallah. With that being said, we've explained this in detail before with regards to the book. The hadith states that the Prophet ﷺ had a dream. And in that dream he was given something. And after he was given that thing, he passed on the drink to someone else. Now this hadith is in Sahih Bukhari and several different places. Now, and what we want to do bi'idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala is we want to read to you from Fathul Bari a few of those places where this hadith is collected. First and foremost is Kitab al-Ilm, the book of knowledge. Fi bab Fadl al-Ilm. And we know that Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, he would take one hadith and he would mention it in 10 places, 20 places, 15 places, because he wanted to take the lesson from the hadith. And Imam Muslim would take the hadith and only mention it in one place, which he considered to be the most appropriate place for this hadith. Moving forward, al-Hafidh ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, and before we go on, we have another question for the brothers or the sisters. Who can tell me what chapters Imam al-Bukhari would put this hadith in? Once more, the Prophet was asleep. He had a dream, and we all know the status of the Prophet's dreams. He was given a jug of milk. He began to drink from the jug, and he drank a lot. So much so, he says that the milk was coming from my fingertips. And after the milk was pouring from my fingertips, I took the remainder of the milk and I gave it to Umar radiallahu anhu. He saw Umar in the dream, and Umar, he drank as well. Then the people asked him, فَمَا أَوَّلْتَهُ يَا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ, how did you interpret this dream? What does it mean if you see a snake in a dream? or a cow in a dream, or it's raining in your dream, or you're handcuffed in a dream, or you're flying in a dream. What do dreams mean? So the Prophet ﷺ, he says, قال العلم. He says it's knowledge. That's the meaning of my dream. Where would Imam al-Bukhari put this hadith? Right hand or left hand? Always the right hand. Fadl.
In the book of dream interpretation.
Fi kitab al-ta'bir. The book of dream interpretation. To prove two things. Number one, or maybe more than two, it's from the Sunnah to interpret dreams. Number two, the meaning of a specific specimen, and that is the specimen of milk. If you see milk in your dream, then it generally means A, B, C, D, E, so on and so forth. Everyone understand this? Tayyib, Kitab al-Ta'bir, Ahsant, perfect answer. Where else would Imam al-Bukhari put this book, this hadith? The virtues of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala. Kayf hadha? How is this?
Because he was given knowledge.
He was given knowledge. Umar, the Prophet testifies to the fact that Umar radiallahu anhu has what? Ilm. Even though it's a dream, but the dream is symbolic to the actual wakiness of the world, when you're awake. There's something else that proves that as well. The sheer fact that he saw Umar in a dream. The sheer fact that he what? He saw him in a dream. And the Prophet's dreams are true. And the shaitan does not do things to the Prophet of Islam which he may do to other human beings. Everyone understand this? Tayyib, ahsantum. So we have Kitab al-Ta'bir. We also have Kitab al-Manaqib. We also have given you Kitab al-Ilm. That's 3. Any other places, even if it isn't factual, where could Imam al-Bukhari place this hadith? Think. Use the mind of Imam al-Bukhari. But don't get lost. Because you will get lost in the head of Imam al-Bukhari, rahimahullah. Fadl akhi. Kitab al-Giving Milk. Is there a chapter inside Bukhari with that title? Think about it. Think closely. You're close. You're lukewarm, but not hot. What does Imam al-Bukhari say about giving things? Think. We'll come back to you. You know the answer, but you have to be trained properly. Tfadil akhi. Kitab al-Atima wa al-Ashriba. You sure? Maybe Atima. Milk can be a food. What does Allah Azza wa Jal say about Jalut and Dawood in Surah Al-Baqarah? What does Allah tell us about this? About the river and the prohibition. What does Allah say? فَمَنْ وَمَنْ لَمْ يَطَ عَنْهُ فَإِنَّهُ إِلَّا مَنْ اغْتَرَفَ غُرْفَةً بِيَدِهِ. So Allah mentioned that He said what? He says, what are the words mentioned in ayah? Stay with me. You may give a right answer, but it's my job to try to trick you. You understand? Seriously, it's not a joke. It's my job to confuse you. Because if you can stand firm in front of a trick or something confusing, that means that you do know what it is. You're confident. Everyone understand this? When you take the exam in the College of Hadith, you had to take maybe 3 exams for the master's program. And one of those exams that you had to take was a trick exam. You had to sit in front of 3 master professors, and they threw wrong information at you. Literally. A lie, basically. A hypothetical lie. They throw it at you, and it says, right? And if you said, yeah, naam sheikh, you will fail. And if you say, la ya sheikh, and it says, are you sure? It's well known. And they all look at each other. Wallahi. You say, no, that's not right. He died in this year. And kada, and kada, and kada. Because it's easy for someone to memorize and answer a question. But it's a bit more difficult for you to stand firm in front of a what? A trick. Everyone understand this? There are many ways of teaching knowledge. So now, stay with me, Yahi. At'ima or ashriba? Which of the two? Ashriba. So you change it, but Allah says in Surah Al-Baqarah, He mentioned about drinking from the river. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَطَعَمْهُ. So maybe in Kitab al-At'ima, the book of foods, but for sure in the book of what? Drinks. What chapter in the book of drinks? The virtues of milk, perhaps. Or the permissibility of drinking milk. Tayyib. Asentuma. Something else. One more. Where else would Imam al-Bukhari put this? Fadal. Kitab al-Adab, the book of manners. How? What chapter? Sharing or passing on drink is a manner. Very good. Where else could he possibly place this hadith? Fadal, akhi. The book of inheritance.
Ibn Umar inherited the
Umar inherited knowledge from the Prophet ﷺ. Perhaps. It's not a bad answer. Very good. There's more. Always the right hand. Never raise the left hand. Tfaddal.
Perhaps on a chapter of.
We gotta give something specific. Something specific. Kitab kada.
Tidings to a person for news. Tidings of news.
Maybe that's in Kitab al-Adab too. Naam. Wahakada. So this goes to show you that when you study hadith, you automatically become strong in fiqh and how to deduce and extract. Everybody clear on this or not? Type. So the first place in which this hadith is collected is in Kitab al-Ilm. The Babu Fadl al-Ilm. Al-Hafidh bin Hajar rahimahullah, he says, وتفسير اللبن بالعلم لاشتراكهما في كثرة النفع بهما. He says, and the reason why the Prophet ﷺ interpreted the milk to mean knowledge is because milk and knowledge share one thing, and that is kathratun nafa. He says abundant benefit. Abundant benefit. Milk is good for you. Milk does this for you. Milk provides that for you. Milk does this, and so all of the wonders of milk. As far as today, people that may be vegans or vegetarians, milk is bad for you. It causes this disease, it causes that. We're not debating with them right now. We're talking about Kitab and Sunnah, and we're talking about the history of the human race. For hundreds and thousands, Allahu Alam, how many years human beings have been drinking what, Abu Isa? Milk. And cultures that are based off of drinking milk. They don't drink wine when they meet. They don't drink this when they meet. They give each other a bowl of what? Milk. And they were some of the strongest and most formidable people. And some of the most healthy people physically. And their whole diet was based off of what? Milk. Now the milk of a cow that's been sitting in a place for months and shot out with steroids or electrocuted, or that's a different story. Everyone understand this? Khairan inshallah. So Ahad bin Hajar, he says, the reason why the Prophet ﷺ used the word ilm, he says because milk and knowledge, or he says لِكَثْرَةِ النَّفْعِ بِهِمَا, because they share this common trait, and that's knowledge. You go overseas and you study, you help yourself. You have your mother and your father, your little brother, your older sister. You have your household, your community. You help your block, you help your city, you help your masjid. And only Allah knows how many people will benefit from the knowledge that you get from studying. And the same applies to milk. So that's the first point of interpretation. Point number 2. Or before we move on, Ibn Hajar, he says, وسيأتي بقية الكلام عليه في مناقب عمر وفي كتاب التعبير إن شاء الله تعالى. He says, and the rest of the discussion of the hadith will be mentioned where? In the virtues of Umar and also the book of interpretation. And this also goes to show us that the explanation of Sahih Bukhari is also more difficult than the explanation of Sahih Muslim. The sharh of Bukhari is more challenging than the sharh of Muslim, because you're looking for the explanation of a hadith that's been mentioned 3 times. So you may have to look in 3 different places. This was in volume 1, this is in volume 7, and this was in volume 12. Everyone understand this? وَسَتَأْتِي بَقِيَّةُ مَبَاحِثِهِ فِي الْفَرَائِضِ وَسَتَأْتِي بَقِيَّةُ مَبَاحِثِهِ فِي التَّفْسِيرِ. Everyone understand this? That as well. And we know that Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, he would oftentimes make his book more difficult. He would intentionally hide things and mislead people in his book for his book to be appreciated and respected. He didn't want his book to be simple and easy for any type of Joe Blow or Tom, Dick, and Harry to pick it up and say, I've mastered your book. That wasn't the mind of Imam al-Bukhari. Imam al-Bukhari was a deep, deep thinker. Everyone understand this? Right, moving forward. The next place that we're going to read here is mentioned in Kitab al-Ta'bir, the book of hadith interpretation. And that hadith obviously is hadith number 82, and this is hadith number 6660. He says, Babul Laban, the chapter of milk. The chapter of what? Of milk. So, what are we about to say right now? We heard one interpretation of the hadith. Why else would the Prophet ﷺ say that the milk was knowledge? And that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had an abundance of ilm, and Umar radiallahu anhu was given that knowledge, and not only was he given knowledge, but it was from the Prophet ﷺ's blessed mouth. It's from the Prophet's blessed mouth. I have a jug of milk. I drink some, I give you a cup. That's not the same as me drinking from it and me giving you the cup. You drinking directly from where I drank. It's a bit different now. It's more intimate now. What is the meaning of this and another way of looking at it? Who can guess, inshallah? Or who knows? Fadal.
To mean you take your knowledge from one specific source. Which is that of
Take your knowledge from one specific source. Perhaps. Fadal, akhi.
It signifies the closeness of Umar ibn
Signifies the closeness of Umar. Perhaps. La'allahu, fadal.
The idea of having a teacher.
The idea of having a teacher, not being self-taught. Maybe. Adopt precision and accuracy. Maybe. Fadal.
the white milk is pure. So
White milk is pure, so is the knowledge that he got. Anyone else? Fadal, Sheikh.
There's two narrations about Umar. One speaking about that when the ayats were revealed and Umar was correct,
Mm-hmm.
and the Prophet also mentioned if there was a Nabi after me, it would be Umar. So
Mhm.
showing there that sometimes Allah gave Umar fahm similar to the fahm from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
طيب. Khair, inshallah. The talents of Umar with regards to his piercing understanding, divinely inspired by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Mulham. طيب. Khair, inshallah. Anyone else before we move forward? Fadal.
Knowledge is passed down.
Knowledge is passed down. طيب. Similar. Everyone always thinking in two main concepts. It's something deeper than that though. Fadal, akhi. The teacher should want good for the students. Think deeply. Huh? Fadal. Special relationship. Similar. Oh. Kulu similar. Fadal, akhi.
Following the footsteps of the teacher.
Similar. طيب. Ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala, he says here in Kitab al-Ta'bir, the book of dream interpretation. Listen carefully. He says, قال ابن العربي اللبن رزق يخلقه الله طيبا بين أخباث من دم وفرث. He quotes from a scholar who came before him, Ibn al-Arabi, not Ibn Arabi, Ibn al-Arabi, the Maliki scholar. And obviously he has sharh of books of hadith, such as, what book did Ibn al-Arabi explain from Kutub al-Sitta? Tirmidhi. What's من كتابه؟ ها تفضل. أحسنت بارك الله فيك. عارضة الأحوذي. أحسنتم. طيب, moving forward. Ibn al-Arabi says that milk, he says, رزق يخلقه الله. Allah creates this means of sustenance. And as you mentioned, it's pure. Allah, he makes it pure. بين أخباثٍ. From among impurities. Allah makes something pristine and pure, even though it's surrounded and enveloped by things which are impure. Such as what? What does Allah Azza wa Jalla say about milk in the 16th chapter? Between blood and the cow? Excrement. Tayyib. So blood in general, and we're not here to discuss mas'alat najasat al-dam. Is dam najis or not? We're not here to discuss this mas'ala fiqhiyya. But hypothetically speaking here, blood, aslan, is going to be najis. Or it's khabith, foul. And farth, excrement, is also going to be fil asl. We're not here to discuss that either. Ma yukalu lahmuhu. Droppings of animals whose meat can be consumed. That's a mas'ala fiqhiyya, right? If you work on a farm, Naam alamin, Eid Adha. We had on our boots, we had to chase the sheep around, literally chase it around and wrestle it down. And you walk through the pen. It's going to be mud and it's going to be droppings. Is it najis? Can you pray there? What did the Prophet say? We're not here to discuss this. Al-Muhim is that the blood, it comes from something which is khabith. Whether it's linguistically khabith or legislatively khabith. Who wants to drink blood or eat blood? Right? Who wants to drink or eat excrement? Akramakum Allah. Right or wrong? So he says that milk is made clean and pure, even though it's surrounded by akhbath. Everyone understand this so far? Everybody got this? Moving forward. Ibn al-Arabi, rahimahullah ta'ala, he then says, كَالْعِلْمِ نُورٌ يُظْهِرُهُ اللَّهُ فِي ظُلْمَةِ الْجَهْلِ. He says it's just like knowledge. Allah Azza wa Jal manifests knowledge. He brings about knowledge, even though you, or your country, or your town, or your city, or your household may be enveloped by the darkness of ignorance. In other words, milk is miraculous. Milk is what? It's miraculous. And someone having knowledge and benefiting in 2018 in a non-Muslim country with so many distractions and so many disturbances, and you going overseas and learning and benefiting and guiding people, that is also what? Miraculous. That's what? That's miraculous. I used to be a non-Muslim, somebody may say. I used to do drugs. I used to have a girlfriend. I have tattoos and so on and so on and so forth. I took my shahada. I went to Medina. I learned. I studied. I benefited. And I came back as an imam of people. That in itself is what? That's miraculous. Or another says, I was born Muslim. My parents come from a Muslim country, but I never prayed. I used to smoke weed. I used to drink. I used to have girlfriends. I used to listen to music. I used to do all of these bad things. I was a horrible son. I gave my father a world of problems. I gave my mother a world of problems until that car accident that I got in. Until my friend was shot or stabbed in a club that night and he died. And I cried at his janazah. And I says, I'll never ever drink another bottle of alcohol. And I began to study and make tawbah and become righteous. And I learned my deen. And now I have people coming from all over the world to study and sit at me. That is what? That's miraculous. Everyone understand the depth of this now? Ibn al-Arabi rahimahullah ta'ala, he then says, فَضُرِبَ بِهِ الْمَثَلُ فِي الْمَنَامِ. He says, and since that's the case, it has become a symbolic sign in one's dream. Knowledge is milk. Milk is knowledge in the world of dreaming. Everyone understand this? What this means now? And think about how knowledge is wholesome. One class that you sit in can change your life. Abu Isa, 3 days, 4 days can do what? Give you a fresh inspiration, invigorating taste. It's time for me to study. It's time for me to get myself together. One hadith you may hear may change your life. One ayah you may hear may change your life. One person, one scholar that you may meet, it may change your life. So knowledge itself is miraculous. Benefiting, learning, and studying is miraculous. And in general, the odds are stacked against you guys. The odds are against you. Being in this country, being in this era, even if it isn't an issue of righteousness and wickedness, growing up in the 21st century. I'm not that old, but I'm older than many of you younger brothers. And I will clearly say to you, the odds are against you. Because when I was growing up, when I was studying, there was none of this. There was no Fath al-Bari that you could walk around with in your pocket. You had to go buy 13 volumes, carry 13 volumes. You had to read. There was no Qala ibn Hajar that you could just have with convenience. So it's a blessing now, but for someone that never had the original book, it's a curse because it teaches you laziness and lethargy. It teaches you that you don't have to sacrifice. You don't have to work. You can just get knowledge right out of your pocket. And this is why we were told in Medina, Sheikh Abdul Razak, Hafidhullah, he told us a story once, and he was talking about the computer. And he was talking about laptops. And he was talking about al-Maktabat al-Shamila in his early days. And some of the students said, yeah, Sheikh, should we use the computer for research? So on and so forth. The Sheikh's view, he says, don't use the computer for research. He says, go to the library, get a paper cut your finger, get some dust in your lungs, go and look through the books, get lost, get confused, bother the librarian, learn the library, don't use the computer. So some of the tulab is like, Kif, yeah, Sheikh, the computer, it gives you so much more, it's quicker, it's faster, it's more accurate, etc. The Sheikh, Hafidullah, he said here, he quoted a story of Sheikh Bakr Abu Zayd, rahimahullah. And what Sheikh Bakr Abu Zayd said about a research paper, a book, an essay that was made by a student just using a computer. And the student, as if the student was boasting and bragging, all of the stuff that he wrote and the facts and the information that he put in his book that no one else put. And he said that Sheikh Bakr rahimahullah ta'ala, he didn't applaud the student at all. He didn't clap his hands for the student. Rather, he criticized the student, he censured him. And he said to him, he said, هذه الأجهزة, he says, these computers and this software, he says, تجرئ المبتدئ وتقطع المنتهي. He says they give audacity to beginners and they break the backs of those who are experienced. They give audacity to young and they ruin the old. Meaning, someone that hasn't sat and studied with the ulama, someone that hasn't sat in the library and sat in a chair, and this is a true story, this is a real story, it's nothing, it's read in a book, you sit in a chair for so long that you get an illness or a sickness on your backside. or you sit in a chair at a computer for such a long time that your elbows are scarred. You get scratches because you don't have a really comfortable chair from sitting so long. Or you have a computer in which you have food stains on it. And you go to sleep and you wake up and you're slobbering on your keyboard because you're sitting there at such a long period of time. Studying. Or not at a computer, in the library, your books. That's what I mean, your books. They don't know about going to the library, spending money, sacrificing money for food, not having money to eat, but buying books. And it's just قال ابن حجر فتح الباري فلان شيخ فلان شيخ فلان شيخ فلان شيخ فلان. It's easy and it's simple. No one knows the true sacrifice of studying and sitting with ulama and going to the library. He says تجرئ المبتدئ وتقطع المنتهي. And it says, and it breaks the backs of the elders, meaning those who spend all of those years studying and researching and sacrificing, and then they see someone who comes along and he does what he did for 5 years in a week. How's he going to feel, Ayesha? Like his efforts were a waste of time. We're not here to discuss the ruins of using computers. I'll be a hypocrite if I said it's haram, but it's like I use them myself. But we're trying to prove a what? Trying to prove a point. Is that you guys are at a disadvantage. The fitna among the mashayikh and the ulama now isn't like how it used to be 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. The world today, traveling, visas, different countries, is not like how it was back then. You guys are at a disadvantage. So you have to work harder. I would understand this. Ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala, he then goes on to say, قال رحمه الله تعالى قال بعض العارفين الذي خلص اللبن من بين فرث ودم أو خلص اللبن من بين فرث ودم قادر على أن يخلق المعرفة من بين شك وجهل ويحفظ العمل عن غفلة وزلل وهو كما قال. He says, بعض العارفين, some knowledgeable people, they said, listen to this interpretation now. The one who made milk pure and clean from between blood and excrement has the ability to make knowledge from among ignorance and heedlessness, and as the one who allows, or the one who has the ability to allow you to be steadfast and not to be distracted and turned away. Just like milk was kept safe from dirt and impurity, Allah keeps your heart, your mind, and your body, your soul from dirt and impurity. So this is why the Prophet ﷺ made this example between milk and between what? Between knowledge. And there's more. Ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala then goes on to say, وهو كما قال, he says, and that's right, لكن اضطردت العادة بأن العلم بالتعلم والذي ذكره قد يقع خارقا العادة في كل من باب الكرامة إلى أن قال وقال ابن أبي جمرة تأول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم اللبن بالعلم اعتبارا بما يبين له أول الأمر أتي بقدح خمر وقدح لبن فأخذ اللبن فقال له جبريل أخذت الفطرة الحديث. He then goes on to speak about when the Prophet offered the Messenger of Allah wine, and when he offered him milk. And we know that the Prophet he took the milk, and Jibreel told him that's the original way, and if you would have taken the milk, غَوَتْ أُمَّتُكَ, then your followers would have went astray. So the concept of what you drink and what you consume, and the same applies the knowledge that you have. Fadl. Wine. What do we say? Milk and wine. If you took the wine, غَوَتْ أُمَّتُكَ. جزاكَ khairan. Everyone clear on these interpretations now? طيب, khairan. So this is a brief selection of that hadith. Perhaps we'll take one more to see how much time we have. Chapter number 3, the obligation of seeking knowledge. For who and what are you seeking knowledge? The fruits of your lack of sincerity, seeking knowledge. The superiority of learning the sciences of the Quran. The nobility of the students of the hadith. The paramount status of the ulama. The death of the ulama, a true tragedy. The disappearance of knowledge. The similitude of those who combine between learning and teaching. Seeking refuge in Allah from knowledge that does not benefit. The great harm and danger of the imposter ulama. Very interesting chapter. Seeking knowledge is the way to paradise. Seeking knowledge is a means of sustenance. The obligation of conveying beneficial knowledge. The punishment for those who conceal beneficial knowledge. The danger of passing on knowledge that you aren't sure of. The permissibility of concealing knowledge for a greater benefit. Avoid overburdening the people. The outcome of those who do not act upon their knowledge. Traveling to seek knowledge. A true student of knowledge never stops studying. the dispraise of blind following. You must memorize, O student of knowledge. Repetition is the key to understanding. Seeking beneficial knowledge requires great sacrifice. Read to your teacher. Beware of using your knowledge to chase the dunya. Write down anything beneficial that you come across in your studies. Use your time wisely, O student of knowledge. Coming as close together in the circle of knowledge as you can, women should also be eager to seek knowledge. And that's the hadith that we're going to mention, bid'nillahi ta'ala, hadith number 36, under that chapter. The author, may Allah forgive him, he says, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhu told a woman coming to Allah's messenger and saying, Messenger of Allah, the men have a monopoly of what you say. So appoint us a day on which we may come to you and teach us some of what Allah has taught you. He told them to gather on such and such a day and such a place. And when they did so, he came to them and taught some of what Allah had taught him. Then he said, ما من كل من امرأة تقدم بين يديها من ولدها ثلاثة إلا كان لها حجابا من النار. فقالت امرأة واثنين واثنين واثنين. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم واثنين واثنين واثنين. Any woman who is bereaved by 3 of her children will have them as a shield from hell for her. One of the women asked about a woman who lost just 2 children, repeating the question twice, to which the Prophet ﷺ replied, 2 also, 2 also, and 2 also. This hadith has been collected by Al-Bukhari and Muslim. Tayyib ya mashayikh, what does this hadith mean? What is the relation between the chapter or the chapter heading in the hadith, and what side benefits do we learn from this hadith? Tafaddalu. What do we start off with? The benefits or the munasaba? بين الباب أو الترجمة والحديث. Bab is the chapter heading. You should know. Right. How does the hadith relate to the chapter heading? You know what I mean? Women should also be eager to seek knowledge. Where's the relation? What's the highlighting point with regards to the chapter heading? Fadal. He gathered the women together. Nope, that's not it. They asked. They requested. Naam, the woman, she did what? She went to the Prophet ﷺ, and not only did she ask, that's not right. She didn't ask. She complained. No. She didn't ask, nor did she request. She did what? She complained. غَلَبَكَ عَلَيْنَا الرِّجَالِ. That's a call of what? That's a complaint. That's a what? That's a complaint. If a man is in the masjid all day, all night, he comes home, his wife is going to say what? The brothers have what? Taking all your time. I want you to be righteous and pious, but give me some time. That's called a what? A request or a what? It's a complaint. / demand / fi'l amr. Tayyib? That's a complaint. Everybody got this or not? Tayyib? So that's the munasaba. So the first thing ya talib ilm is you tarbit bayn al-babi wa bayn al-hadith. Tayyib. Number 2, where is the main part or highlighting point from the hadith? Wajh al-dilala min al-hadith. What's the wajh al-dilala? What's the mahal al-istishhad min al-hadith? We know these terms, right, guys? Fadl.
She asked the Prophet, she complained to the Prophet to give them a time. He gave them, I'll give the men a time. So he gave them.
That's the munasabah, that's done.
The part where she said,
teach us something that Allah has taught you. And the Prophet ﷺ, he told her what? Stay in the house. Naam? Sahih? No, that's not what the Prophet said. Sahih? We're here together, everybody with me or not? She said, teach us something from what Allah has what? Taught you. And he told her to do what? قَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ. Sahih? He didn't say that. And the sawta mar'a awra. The woman's voice is what? Awra. He didn't what? He didn't say that. We together. We on the same page or not, guys? It's a simple answer. The Prophet ﷺ, he didn't say that you're a wife and your job is to please your husband. You have children and that's it. Things that many oppressive and ignorant men would say today. Things that many oppressive and ignorant men would say today. A sister say, can we have a class? sisters shouldn't have a class. Barakallahu fik ukhti, khalas. Many men will say this. You shouldn't come to the masjid, or yani, do the class in your home. Many people will say things like this. So they sincerely believe that? There's nothing wrong with that. Or are they saying that because if a woman is ignorant, you keep your wife ignorant, then it's easier to do what? Control her. And to stampede over her, run over her because she doesn't know anything. I can say anything is obligatory. Anything is haram. And if you don't know anything, then you're going to what? You're going to fall victim. We cannot manipulate people with the deen of Allah, brothers. We are not allowed to manipulate people and abuse people in the name of hadith and sunnah. Everyone understands? That's the point. The Prophet, he accepted her request. He did not refute her for her complaint. Everyone understand this? Everyone, that's the mahal al-dilala min al-hadith. We got it now? طيب, what fawaid do we get from this hadith briefly? Faddalu. We get no benefit from the hadith? Khair inshallah. Let's wrap it up. I mean, right? It's over. No benefits from the hadith, ikhwan. Faddal, quickly, really quick, everybody, so we can close up. Huh? Your children have a blessing. Are a blessing to you. Children who die? Miscarriage is still a blessing. Right? Perhaps. Faddal, akhi. The virtue of patience upon hardship. Very good. Yalla. The permissibility for a woman to ask a question to someone, a man. Try it. Any other fawaid, brothers and sisters? Wallahi, we can sit down this hadith and maybe give 30 fa'idah, 50 fa'idah. Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah, the well-known story, right? When he went to visit Imam Ahmed, this is what the story says. فِيمَا يُرْوَى وَيُحْكَى Allahu alam. It's not a hadith. It's a story. They say he went to visit Imam Ahmed, right? And he ate a lot of food over Ahmed's house. A lot of food. And he stood up all night. He didn't use the restroom. He didn't go to the outhouse. He didn't make wudu. And he didn't make any extra prayers. And when Fajr came in, he didn't make wudu. And this is supposed to be this Muhammad ibn Idris Shafi'i. So obviously there were some people, whether they were ignorant or whether they were lacking in-depth knowledge, they started talking about Shafi'i, the story says. And they said this man Muhammad ibn Idris, he ate a lot of food, he's greedy. He didn't pray at night, he's lazy. And Fajr came in and he didn't make wudu. He doesn't even know that you have to make wudu before you make Salat al-Fajr. So some of the people said. So the story says that Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala said, Amma nuqtatul ula. As far as the first point that you said about me, then Imam Ahmad has the best food that I found in Iraq. And I don't get a chance to have this type of good food. So when I find it, I implement the hadiths about eating, and Abu Hurairah eating, and Ashab al-Sufa eating. And it's nothing wrong with filling your belly. The Prophet ﷺ, on that day, the companions went in the house, they ate, dakhalu, fa'akalu, wa shabi'u. They ate, they entered, they full, they left. And they ate. The Prophet ﷺ never complained that they ate till they full. So it's not haram to eat till you're full, especially if it's occasionally done, and it's exquisite food. So your first point is now what? Out the window. Point number 2, he says, I didn't pray at night because I stood up all night pondering over one hadith. When the Prophet ﷺ said to the young companion, Ya Aba Umair, ma fa'al al-Nughir. Ya Aba Umair, ma fa'al al-Nughir. He says, Oh Abu Umair, where's your small bird? What happened to your perch? What happened to your swallow? He had a bird in a cage, and the bird died. So the Prophet ﷺ, he was speaking to a young man. We're not going to say who the young man was. I'll leave that to you. And he was speaking to him affectionately, playing with him, and asking him inquisitively, what happened to your bird? How'd you let your bird die? Shafi'i says, I stood up all night. وَاسْتَنْبَطْتُ مِنْهُ خَمْسِينَ فَائِدَةً. He says, I took 50 benefits just from that one hadith. فِي جواز تربية الطيور في الأقفاص. في جواز تصغير وفي. Benefit off of one hadith. Ya Aba Umair, ma fa'al al-Nughir. Let alone a hadith this long. Everyone understand this? And last but not least, he says, as far as why I didn't offer wudu and use the bathroom, he says, because I kept my wudu all night. And the hadith says, لا يحافظ على الوضوء إلا مؤمن. No one will preserve his wudu except for a what? A believer. So therefore, he said what? You can leave now. Everyone understand this? So you have to learn how to extract benefits from a hadith. Tayyib, quickly guys, before we wrap up. Fadal.
How you may not understand the qadr of Allah.
You may not understand the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tayyib. But there is a wisdom and a benefit for you. What else? Fadal.
Importance of women,
The importance of women.
of mothers.
Of mothers, their status in the deen. Tayyib, very good. Fadal. The importance of emphasis and repetition. واثنين واثنين واثنين. The importance of repetition and emphasis. تفضل. Huh? Women can and should seek knowledge. وهكذا. إلى آخره. You sit down one day with your notebook and scratch your brain. And brothers, the more you do this, sisters, the more you do this, and the more fiqh you know, the more usul you know, the stronger your Arabic is, the more tafsir you read, the easier it is for you to do what? Extract these fawaid. That the average man will only say is only one benefit. Or he can't even get the main benefit. And you said what? Ya Aba Umair, ma fa'ala nughayr. He says 50 rulings and benefits from that one part of the hadith. Allah Azza wa Jalla truly knows best. Indeed, it was my pleasure and my honor to come here and speak to you tonight and share these words of wisdom from the people of knowledge tonight. So I thank Allah for that. Alhamdulillah, the attendees, the brothers and the sisters, I thank all of you as well. Last but not least, the Imam of the Masjid, the Sheikh of the Markaz, the brothers and the sisters in the administration, the organizers and the planners, I thank you as well for allowing me to come to you and give me the opportunity. Jazakumullahu khairan. And of course, as we always say, my entourage, my gang of brothers, and my hosts as well, Abu Isa, Nuruddin, and all of the brothers and sisters, Jazakumullahu khairan as well, and I'm indebted to you. It's time for questions, or I don't know. It's up to you. Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khairan. So if there are questions from the brothers, if the sisters can write them down, or I don't know, send them if there's a sisters group or something. Some people they have a group where we can send the questions. Al-Muhim. Well, however you want to do it. If you have any questions, I don't mind entertaining them. If there are any corrections that you wish to make or mistakes that were said in the lecture, you can say that as well. If you wish to add something or fix something or put something, you can do that as well. Inshallah, the floor is open, and if not, Jazakumullah khairan. Fadl akhi.
So you've been studying hadith for many years now. What would be your conclusion after studying all the hadith of all the books, the compilation, the musnads, the musannafs, everything, Darul Qutni, Darimi? At the end of it, what would be your conclusion? Like, do you get what I'm asking? So say student hadith decided to read all the books of hadith. He sifted from the weak hadith, the Hasan, Sahih. At the end of it, what would be the
conclusion?
Fruit? Yeah.
The fruit, like the benefit, or like the way to study, what books to stick to?
No, not to what books to study. What would be the fruit of your
The fruit of those studies. Type. Question says that you've been studying hadith for many years. You read all of these different books and so on and so forth. Darul Qutni, Darimi, Musnad, this book, that book. What will be your conclusion, and what will be the fruit or the thamara, etc.? Obviously, the questioner has husn al-dhan, alhamdulillah. He's implementing the Islamic ruling, having good thoughts of your brother. I've only been seeking hadith for a few years, and I've only read a few books of hadith. There are people, students of knowledge of hadith that are 10, 20 times better than me, that actually read and study day and night, year after year after year. We're just in the beginning of the path. So with that being said, for someone who actually has been studying hadith for many years and has read these books and memorized those books and ran through those books, what will be the thamara, etc.? I tried to pinpoint the question, what will be the thamara, or what will be the conclusion with regards to the books or how to deal with them, etc. But he says in general, I would say that anyone who's been studying hadith for many years in the proper way, and he's read all of these different books and read and studied these different books, I think that the conclusion and the benefit would be Bidnai ta'ala, Jannah, paradise, and yaqeen, certainty, surety of the deen of al-Islam. Whereas you read the life of the Prophet ﷺ in detail, you read his statements in detail, his actions in detail, his battles in detail, the halal and haram in detail. So I think that someone who read the books of hadith for years properly and studied for years properly, he'll be a great scholar of Islam, and bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, his final destination will be paradise. That's what I humbly believe. The Messenger of Allah, he says, as it's mentioned in the chapter here in the book, Inna awla nasibi yawm al-qiyamah aktharuhum alayya salatan. The people who have the closest station with me on the day of judgment are those who send the most prayers on me. So how many times do we say sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? Qala Imam al-Bukhari, Qala Imam Ahmad, Qala Imam Abu Dawud, Qala Imam Malik, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So on one page, you may say Sallallahu 10 times, 20 times, 30 times. So you read thousands of hadiths, year after year after year after year. And this is something that they asked Shaykh Abdul Muhsin, Hafidullah Ta'ala, Shaykhuna, when he completed Kutub al-Sitta. Completed Kutub al-Sitta in the Prophet's Masjid, teaching it for many years. And some of the students, they asked questions. And there were 2 questions that they asked him specifically. The first question was, or 3 questions. The first question was, yeah, Shaykh, what's the next book we're going to do? And the Shaykh said, we're going to start again, back to Sahih Bukhari. And the second question they asked him, yeah, Shaykh, can we get an ijazah from you in Kutub al-Sitta? We've been studying you for years. The Shaykh says, ma indi. He says, I don't have an ijazah. I have no ijazah in Kutub al-Sitta. Shaykh Abdul Muhsin said, take this lesson now, guys. People who travel across the world, lie, steal, cheat, pay money, connive, scratch each other to get an ijazah. You get a sheikh who gives an ijazah and you hide the sheikh. You don't tell no one else about it because you don't want the people to hog your sheikh. People who get an ijazah and they stick out their chests. I have ijazah. I can teach. I have ijazah. You don't have ijazah. This is the muhaddith of Medina who taught Kutub al-Sitta and the sheikh can barely see. Shaykh Abdul Muhsin Abadin, who's ever seen him, knows that his glasses are super thick, bifocals, and his eyesight is very poor, his physical eyesight, as if he's blind. And he taught thousands of hadiths from his head. And Shaykh Abdul Muhsin Abadin is old, he's an old man. And he's saying, I have no ijazah. Everyone understand the point that we're trying to get to? Is ijazah haram? Is it bid'ah? Is it a bad thing? It's not what we're trying to say. But you do not worship an ijazah min dunillah. It's not a sanam. It's not an idol that you prostrate to and offer slaughtered animals to. As many people they do. Ijazah, they make the ijazah an idol. An ijazah is a virtue. It's a wasila. If you get it, alhamdulillah, and if you don't get it, based off of what Shaykh Abdul Muhsin did, it means what? Nothing. It doesn't make you or break you. You can have an ijazah and not know what you're saying. And you may not have an ijazah and you what? Know what you're saying. And the third thing that they asked Shaykh Abdul Muhsin, and this is the highlighting point, they said, yeah, Shaykh, how many times did you send salams upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam from these Kutub al-Sitta? They asked him that question. The Shaykh, he didn't say anything. He sat there and he put his head down and he said, subhanallah. As if he didn't really take it in yet. They asked him, like, Shaykh, how many times do you think you said sallallahu alaihi wasallam? How many times in Bukhari alone? Muslim, Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi, Nasai ibn Majah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He thought about that tremendous virtue. So reading the books of hadith for years is going to increase you in spirituality. As far as technicality, then I humbly feel a person will be an expert scholar. And there are many other benefits as well. Perhaps that's what you mean in your question, and Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best.
Last question.
Fadl.
So the Sahaba, I've been thinking about it recently. What was their secret? I know they were chosen by Allah to accompany the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They also met the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Besides, what made them reach that yaqeen, that maqam of certainty? Like Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib would say, if you are Jannah, Jahannam, it will increase or decrease in Maina. So what was their secret?
The secret of the Sahaba, we know that they met the Prophet. They were with the Prophet ﷺ, etc. But what gave them that maqam? What gave them that certainty? What gave them that yaqeen? What made them so special and fantastic? That's a difficult question. I would say Allah Azza wa Jal says that Allah Azza wa Jal يَخْلُقُ مَا يَشَاءُ وَيَخْتَارُ مَا كَانَ لَهُمُ الْخِيَرَةُ. Allah creates what He wills and He selects what He wills. And the servants have no selection. So Allah Azza wa Jal, He chose those people. He selected those people for what He knew in His infinite, limitless knowledge, and He blessed them with that. That's what I would say. As far as a tangible reason, then I would say sacrifice. They sacrificed what they had, and they weren't like us. We look at the color of skin. That's the first thing that I look at. Are you black? You come sit with me. You black? No, you can't be with me. You have light skin? You can be with me. No light skin? Don't come with me. You come from this country, you're Somali, you're not Somali. That's it. That's how we look at things. A man wishes to seek knowledge, he can seek knowledge. A woman comes to seek knowledge, you can't seek knowledge. You're from this country, you're from this town, you're from this city. We look at these material things, these superficial things. And the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, that's not what gathered them. That's not what caused them to do what they did. They sacrificed for a greater purpose. And the only thing that was important was Islam and the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So perhaps this is another reason why they reached what they reached. It's because they looked at the big important goal. And that was safety from fire and bi'idhnillah, assurance of Jannah. Not like many of us. Worldly material things. Race, color, age, sex, gender, so on and so forth, orientation. We get caught up on those things. And that's all. Oftentimes we can't get nowhere near the Sahaba. Last but not least is that the Sahaba ran from the dunya and we are running towards the dunya. Wala hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Assalamu alaikum. Can you give some advice for a brother making hijrah to Yemen with his family? Jazakallahu khairan. Bidnillah, put your trust in Allah. Ista'in billah. Wala ta'jaz. Work hard, seek Allah's help, and be strong. Be patient, be perseverant. Make sure that you have the goal always in front of you. The apple of your eye is for you to implement what you believe to be implemented of hijrah to Yemen or any other country. Put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be strong. Don't listen to naysayers. If you know it's right, if you feel it's right, if that's what you feel is what should be done, then do it. And don't look back. Don't hesitate. Don't stutter. Put your trust in Allah and Bismillah. And obviously, you have to have a great deal of patience. And Allah knows best. But
I think, from my understanding of the question, was from the point of view of what's going on politically in the world at the moment. Someone wanted to go to that part of the world with their family. I think the sister from Kalwari wanted to hear your advice. I know where you're answering and how you kept it simple, but I think that was the aim of her question, if that makes sense.
Tayyib. Perhaps the aim of the question, Jazakallahu khairan, perhaps the aim of the question was maybe what's going on in the world in the political atmosphere of Yemen. Would you advise them to go or stay, etc.? That's a possibility. Allahu alam, that may be a possibility. You have to take that into consideration. What's going on overseas, what's going on here, the political atmosphere, unrest in a country, fighting, killing, famine, humanitarian crisis. Allahul musta'an. Perhaps. However, me personally, I feel that the questioner is intending that they're going to do it. Whereas the question says, please, can you give advice for a family, for a brother making hijrah to Yemen with his family? So maybe it's what you said, and that's what be my advice is, يعني خذوا حذركم. Be careful, Allah tells us. Take precaution. Is that the best thing to do? To go to a country that's in the midst of what is in the midst? We all know what the answer could be. Perhaps it's best not to do that. Allahu alam, everyone's life is different. What I consider a danger or risk, you may consider ibadah and tawakkul. Allahu alam. Yani, obviously, what's the ruling on making hijrah? Is hijrah obligatory? Or also one may say, is hijrah in most countries, not all, ardullahi wasi'ah, but in many countries, if not most countries, especially in the Middle East, is hijrah practical in 2018 in the Middle East? Is it practical? Can you go to a country with the intention of living and dying there for the rest of your life? Is it practical? Especially coming from a Western country. Whether you like it or not, you have specific standards of hygiene, specific standards of medical attention, specific standards of living. Just be mindful of this. I'm not discouraging anyone to make hijrah. If you feel that you should make hijrah, whether it's recommended or obligatory, as I said, put your trust in Allah. But just being mindful of the reality. That's one way of looking at it. And another way of looking at it, and Allah knows best, is it seems as if this brother, azimun al-hijrah, is that he's already in motion to going there. And that's the advice that I would give him, and Allah knows best. Question says, Barakallahu feek, what is considered as cutting family ties? And who has a right to their ties being kept? I have developed anxiety regarding this after coming across one hadith pertaining to this. I have a big family and it's difficult to keep reach. May Allah reward you. Wafikum barakallah. The general rule is that you keep ties with anyone who's considered to be your family. and anyone who's considered to share a womb with you, whether it's a relative or a family member, close or distant. And obviously it's going to differ from person to person. How you treat your mother and your father, your brother, your sister, is not necessarily how you want to treat your aunt or your uncle. How you treat your aunt or your uncle who lives in your country is not likely going to teach someone who's abroad. Someone who's abroad is not like someone who is very, very far distant. Someone who's a Muslim may not be like someone who isn't a Muslim. Someone who's righteous and pious may not be like someone who's wicked or ignorant. Someone who isn't the best Muslim but they're respectful isn't like someone who mocks and makes fun of you. Whether they're Muslim or supposedly a Muslim or non-Muslim. Why do you have a beard? Why do you dress like that? Don't come over here with that dress. Take off the niqab, uncover your face. It's 2018. We're modern, we're progressive. They make fun of you. So it depends. At the end of the day, you give them the basic standard of good treatment. The basic standard, whether it's a phone call or a visit or a gift or money. It doesn't have to be every single day that you see this family member. It doesn't have to be every single month. It may be some family members you only see a year. Some people you may not have the ability to talk to every day. You may send them a gift in the mail. You may give them money. You may do a service for them. Okay? And it may be your mother in which you do something for her every single day if you don't live with her. Some brothers who don't live with their mothers, they see their mothers every day. Or they're always with their mothers. My mother lives in a different state. She comes over to my house. I bring her food. She cooks for me. It depends. What's important is that everyone has to get something. And whenever they request you, you try to give them what they request. Of time, of money, of service, etc. What's important is that these things go back to custom and culture. Custom and culture. Where I come from, when you're 18 years old, you leave your mother's house. It's not a part of my culture for a grown man to stay with his mother. That's my culture. It may be different than your culture. If a man is 18 and he lives with his mother, he's considered a loser. That's my American culture. You're staying with your mother, you're a grown man, you don't have a job, you're not married, you're not going to college, you don't have a girlfriend, you're not considered successful. And it's the custom to leave the house. But you have to visit your mother, take out the trash for her, take her to a restaurant, give her money, help pay the bills, buy her a thing of roses or flowers. She has a leaking roof or faucet, you fix it. You go over, you take your children over there, she wants to see her grandchildren. Why heck of that? But you may come from a country or a culture in which you have to stay with your mother. And you get married and you live in a house with your wife and children. It's different. You may come from a culture in which you have to be with your mother every single day. You may come from a culture in which you have to give a percentage of your paycheck to your parents. If that's your culture, and it's not against the kitab and the sunnah, al-ada muhakkama. As is one of the major fiqh maxims. Al-ada muhakkama. The ada, the custom, is the judge. So it depends on where you are. Every family member doesn't get the same amount of treatment, and it depends on cultural values, as long as those cultural values are not against the Quran and the Sunnah. As long as those cultural values do not necessitate haram or shirk or bid'ah or disobedience. And Allah Azza wa Jal huwa al-muwaffiq wal-hadi. Assalamu alaikum. It would be greatly appreciated if the brothers were reminded to consider the sisters who leave the masjid and stay on one side of the road to avoid inconvenience. Is it permissible for a teacher to make the students pray while reading the du'as loudly in ruku and sujood for the sake of teaching? Jazakallahu khairan. As far as the reminder, then you've all heard the sisters' advice or yani. So if you see the sisters, well, I mean, don't walk on the side of the road according to this Ukht Karima. Tayyib. Is it permissible for a teacher to make the students pray while reading the du'as loudly in ruku and sujood for the sake of teaching? Jazakallahu khairan. If you mean them simulating their prayers, get up. Make the takbir. Recite the Fatiha in front of everybody. Understand? To teach the people. That's one thing. To simulate the prayers, not make ruku and do this. You understand? That's one thing. As far as you mean actually making prayer sincerely for Allah and doing things that the Prophet never ever did for the purpose of teaching, then I would say no. But simulating something is a different story. A wudu workshop, a salat workshop, in which a person is acting like he's praying, but he's not actually making prayer with the actual intention of prayer. That's one thing. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. Jazakallah khair. Malish. Tayyib.
Ikhwan, the Ustad, obviously from his adab, he'll probably be answering questions until Fajr for you guys. However, we shouldn't bother the Sheikh too much. He's had a long day. He's got a program after this. The day's not finished. When all of us go home to sleep, his program continues. So we've actually run quite a lot over time. So, but what I will say is that the Sheikh, he has two channels where you can greatly benefit from him. One is the HadithDisciple channel. A few brothers are wearing the hoodie of the logo, and in particular for your questions, he has a channel run by some brothers called Mufti Q&A, and you can send your questions in, and the Sheikh, mashallah, almost on a daily basis, he's answering questions, if not a daily basis. So as Sheikh Bakr Abu Zayd, the Sheikh that he quoted, one of his advices to the people seeking knowledge is that from the adab of sitting with your Sheikh is that you don't bother him with too many questions. So barakallahu feekum, we're gonna end it there inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan, Shaykhna. Shakarallahu lak. We thank you once again for opening the doors and all of the brothers and sisters who were a part of it and giving us the opportunity. Barakallahu feekum. May Allah accept it from you. وعليكم السلام وإياكم جزاكم الله خير. بارك الله فيك. مرحبا. Nice talk. ما شاء الله. سبحان الله. جزاك الله خير. جزاك الله خير. بارك الله فيكم. أهلا بك. كيف حالك؟ الحمد لله. تمام.
كل تمام والله.
حياكم الله.
Go back to Soda Brothers, جزاك الله خير. Brothers from the United States. Just keep the world up.
I will.
I appreciate it. It was a big deal.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Why you opened and safe.
Alhamdulillah. جزاك الله خير. الله يحفظك. الله يبارك فيكم. خير.
جزاك الله خير. حياك الله.
Pleasure seeing you. You made us meet on that again.